Hey everybody, welcome to Bura. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about how stable Udemy's business is. Alright, welcome back. So, as you can see here, well, the stock has kind of gone down, it's up. Well, currently it kind of went up and down here. But nevertheless, let's take a look at the month here. From the lows, we have about 30% increase, maybe down. And then, of course, if we have the year, we're still down, well, 60%, but not necessarily 66%. So things are going much better here for Udemy here. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is how stable is Udemy's business. And I'm going to be talking about the marketplace, Udemy for Business subscriptions, and a la carte purchases, all those things that you want to hear about when it comes to e-learning, okay? So the thing that I constantly talk about on this channel is Udemy has kind of really two businesses. It has the marketplace and Udemy for Business here. Now, Udemy for Business is growing and growing and growing, but it also takes more and more resources to sell. However, because it's a subscription model, eventually you can take down the resources that it takes to generate that and kind of live off of the subscription revenue. And this is kind of the standard SaaS model for any kind of business here. You basically you basically build up the subscriptions and then you take away a lot of selling storage, because it's really hard to sell business to business. If you don't know, if you've ever tried to sell anything to a business, it's very difficult. Now, the marketplace, on the other hand, is business to consumer. And business to consumer is a lot easier because you just have to convince one person to buy a course and whatnot here. Now, there's lots of things to talk about here, but one thing I want to talk about first is how stable is Udemy's business, right? So so if we take a look at kind of like, value stocks, like something like Coca-Cola, Budweiser, McDonald's, these are stocks that everyone is going to need. Whether the market goes up or down, people are going to continue to want, Budweiser and Coke and McDonald's and all that stuff here. And then it's kind of the more the speculative stocks. It's like kind of like Upwork or Udemy. Like, we don't really know how stable it is. Now, one thing about Udemy, and this is something that rarely gets talked about, is that people will always need education. So much like McDonald's, people will always need to upskill their skills. Now, the thing is that what Udemy is really focusing on is the corporate side of things. They're trying to sell to the corporate market. And to be fair, literally every other company is doing this because they see limited growth on the consumer side. Perhaps it's tapped out. Or is it? Now, I think that, yes, there's a lot of people that have been tapped out here. But what they should do is they should kind of crowdsource the new user acquisition. Now, a site like Kickstarter absolutely does that here. So when someone puts something up on Kickstarter, well, then guess what? When someone puts something up on Kickstarter, they definitely basically sell to their own list, right? And they hire marketing people to drive traffic through that. But on the marketplace side of Udemy, you cannot do that. I can drive 1 million people to my Udemy course and have 100,000 people buy it, and it probably wouldn't raise me up at all in the search rankings. And the reason for this is that they put a lot more emphasis on user engagement and reviews versus the actual sales. And they're doing that because they want the Udemy for Business to be profitable, right? And the thing is, so what they're doing now is they are sacrificing the marketplace for UFB. And I would get why they would do that, because recurring revenue is a lot more stable than a la carte purchases. But here's the thing. So many people love the a la carte purchase, right? And I would argue that it's Udemy's strongest trait, because you can continue to get more people to buy more courses. And of those people, like, a student today is an instructor tomorrow. And they don't really quite get that, because the thing is, with almost all the top instructors, they've been pretty much solidified for the last 5 years. And because they've been so solidified, there's almost no room to make more money on it. And people just don't even go to Udemy at all. They just go somewhere else. In fact, everyone asks me, should I even put my course on Udemy? And I said, well, unless you're willing to make like into the top, UFB selected persons, then yeah, you're probably, it's probably not even good to do it, which is a huge problem. Imagine if the App Store said, no, we don't need new app developers. Or if Steam said, no, we don't need new game developers. I mean, these are marketplaces that have a lot more public attention. And even like the App Store or Google Play or Steam, like you hear a lot of things of how developers complain about it. But like if Udemy had the same public attention, it would get eviscerated, just for the revenue share alone, but just for the way they operate the marketplace here. So the thing is that really Udemy has two businesses, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but they should really make the marketplace generate about $1 billion of revenue per quarter, or $4 billion a year, and that really should be their goal. But the problem with that is that they have to loosen the restrictions. And if they loosen the restrictions, their investors might not like it. But you know what? If the stock keeps going down, then they have to try something different, right? Burning through money and just trying to get some more recurring revenue, it's not necessarily the best business model. They have something amazing with the marketplace here, right? So going back to the question, is Udemy a value stock? Well, education could be a really good value stock. Like, people always need to upskill. In fact, education is one of the kind of things that is always in demand, even in bear market downturns. Now, it's been a while since we've had a huge bear market, but yeah, people spend a lot of money on education. And in fact, if the economy is doing so poorly, people just literally go back to school. They'll get a new trade, they'll go do their masters. And I'm not sure if people still, mostly do that because, a lot of people, they get out of university and they don't have a job. And it's like, well, is the master going to get me any closer to my goal? And I was the same way. And I graduated in 2008. It's like, is a master really going to get me to where I want to go? And the answer was no. You got to develop your own, you got to perform, right? You got to develop your own apps and whatnot, which is the whole reason why we do this here. So anyway, when it comes to is Udemy's business solid, they're actually doing it's kind of like half and half here. So half of their business is getting more solid by the day with their recurring revenue here. But the marketplace side is absolutely suffering. Now, another thing they could do is they could allow instructor level subscriptions. And this would be absolutely massive because you can do that on the App Store, right? You can get subscriptions to your app, but they're not going to do that because they want to have a global subscription. And I think that's a terrible idea because, again, it forces people onto different platforms, right? If I sell 1,000 subscriptions, I'm going to make for $10 a month here, or let's say $19.99 a month, I'm going to make $20,000 a month. But if I put that in like a global subscription, I'm not going to make $20,000 a month here. I guarantee you, if I were to do the exact same thing on Udemy, and sell it through their global student subscription, that would not net me any money. And you might be thinking, well, that's good for the company, and it might be. The problem is that a lot of competition is coming out. Basically, that is competing with Udemy here. Some people might not want the Udemy global subscription, and they'll go pay even more money for something they really want, right? Like a Real Vision. Real Vision is a great education site for macro, and they're at the top of their game. Why would I go to Udemy, right? And that's the biggest problem here. Udemy is not really trying to attract the top talent. It's trying to retain the top talent. And they're doing that in probably one of the most regressive ways. And that way is that they just keep the current people happy and producing versus letting new talent come in. And the new talent eventually will outstrip all the profitability, not only from Udemy, but Udemy for Business as well. And so that's kind of the biggest thing that I see with Udemy, and I've been saying this for years, is that eventually, they might be able to sell their business for something, to a company that's looking to acquire this, but really they have some magic here, and they're not using it. They're not using the spark that makes a good company great. And to be fair, Udemy actually is a decent company, right? I just have a difference of opinion on how they should be running it. and they should be running it in a completely different way, right? And if they were to run it more or less in my way, I think investors would like that a lot more, right? If you really like this channel, you can back this project on Kickstarter from our sister company, Devonian Apps. This is a note-taking app that allows you to take notes with code. It is absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend that you pledge for it. The more you pledge, the more courses you get from Mammoth Interactive as well. And the thing is that we're offering lifetime access to this app, and it will not be lifetime access once this Kickstarter ends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.